Good morning, folks. This is Omar Serrano with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I have a tremendous show planned for you today. We're going to break this down into 3 segments. We're going to talk about what happened to Sonya Massey about 10 days ago now when she was unceremoniously executed by law enforcement in her home after calling 911 to report an intruder or a prowler in her home. We're going to review some of the body cam footage. I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I thought went down there. The officer involved in the shooting has been released. He's going to be charged with first-degree murder. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into what happened last night in the Olympic women's boxing match, where there was a fight that took place, and one of the Italian fighters quit in the middle of the fight because she claimed she had never been hit so hard before in her life. Turns out the person that she was fighting was actually perhaps not a biological woman. There's conflicting reports on that. We're going to talk about all of that. And then we're going to talk about where should we draw the line when it comes to gender specific sports. And you have males that were born males who have converted to female wanting to compete in women's sports and the ramifications thereof. And then we're going to be joined by Megan Fox, and we're going to have a discussion about what is going on with Donald Trump, what's going on with Kamala Harris. So you're going to want to strap in. This one's going to be a good one. Let's guess.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrano with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat, feel free to have a drink, and join me. Let's get started.
Good morning again, folks. So I've been wanting to talk about this specific issue for a while now, but I wanted to also wait to see what was going to come out. There's been multiple releases of body cam footage, and we're going to review some of it. And you know what? I think before we even start talking about it, Sonya Massey, mother of 2, having been executed in her home, I think we just need to show you the body cam footage so you can understand what happened. This was it in a nutshell. Let me just share my screen with you really quick. I apologize. I don't just have it right there on the ready, but I'm working on it. Yeah. Here it is. Share that. No, that's not the one I was looking at. Here it is. Take a look at this body cam footage. Now, here's the context. Sonya Massey was at home. She called 911 to report a disturbance outside of her home. There was potentially a prowler, somebody that was snooping around the house. She called the cops. They go in there, and for whatever reason, there's multiple officers inside of her home, and they're continuing to question her for reasons unknown. The full body cam footage is about 32 minutes long. This is a 2-minute clip of it. In the course of their exchange, Sonya Massey appears to be making them tea. She starts boiling water. She's in the kitchen. She says something to the effect of, "I rebuke you in the name of Satan." This roided out officer took severe offense to that and drew his weapon and causing her to duck a few times and then opens fire. Take a look. Let me make sure the sound is on.
We don't need a fire while we're here. Right. Huh? Where are you going? Away from your hot steaming water. Away from my hot steaming water? Yeah. Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face. Okay, I'm sorry. Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot! Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078. Fuck. I was on. I'm gonna go get my kit. No, your headshot, dude. You're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. God damn it. God, fuck. Dude, I'm not taking fucking boiling water in the fucking head. And look, it fucking came right to our feet, too. God damn it. Fuck. God damn it. You good? I'm good. You good? Yeah, I'm good. What's she got? Let her fucking just... God, is that what you do, man? Fuck. You good? Okay. Fuck. Well.
So that was the incident in a nutshell. Julio, thank you so much for the 20. Says, I'm in Central Illinois. Look up Safety Act. You know what? I'm going to look that up right now. I've never heard about that in my life, but let's see what this is. So the act makes several reforms to sentencing policies, enabling defendants convicted of certain drug offenses to have those offenses treated as misdemeanors for the purpose of qualifying for diversion, deflection, or probation programs. I'm assuming that's not the portion of that act that you wanted me to read. Well, in a nutshell, the Wikipedia version of it speaks about prison and sentencing reforms. It talks about policing reforms. The Safety Act includes a range of reforms on policing practices and police accountability, including the following: expansion of training for police officers, reforms to use for use of force, including limits on the use of deadly force, ban on chokeholds, etc., prohibition on purchasing specific types, and it goes on to outline several more things. It's demoralizing for good cops. DV victims aren't being notified anymore either. Yeah. You know, we've been dealing with these police brutality issues. I mean, how far back do you want to go, honestly? Because, I mean, if you really want to go far back and have an honest discussion about it, you got to go back to the late 1870s, when after the emancipation took hold and slavery was abolished, and you had these cops that were still not recovered from the Civil War. They still very much had their opinions, and they decided that they were going to enact their own moralistic justice by employing various methods in law enforcement. That carried over into the 20th century, 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. You had the Ku Klux Klan that was deeply tied to law enforcement of the day. They literally infiltrated law enforcement and were making policy on the basis of white nationalistic ideologies. And it wasn't really until, you know, I mean, in the 20s, it was really, really bad. I mean, it was literally the Wild West. There was no enforcement of anything. Everybody was just kind of winging it. And not really until the 40s, 50s, in the 60s, you start to see some pushbacks go back to the Watts riots, 70s, you know, 80s, 90s, that evolution, culminating with the LA riots around the time of the OJ trials, the Rodney King incident, all this kind of stuff. Take it all the way back to 2014, where we had the defund police movement and all these different things. We are not strangers to police brutality. I don't think I've seen a more egregious act of poor law enforcement than what we just witnessed on this body cam footage. I've seen some arguing in the YouTube stratosphere that, well, she was going to throw some hot boiling water on the officers. I seem to remember, look, I have a really good buddy who is in the sheriff's department, and he carries the weight of these allegations around wherever he goes. And, you know, the way that he describes it is you're supposed to opt for non-lethal measures first. Tasers, nightsticks, whatever. That lady was not armed. She was literally in her bathroom. She was boiling water for tea. If she was going to throw the water at the officers, I mean, they were standing, I don't know, appear to be maybe 5-6 feet away from her. She didn't appear to be throwing anything. She was ducking. She was literally ducking. Go back to it. Let me Replay that. The moment of truth. She's sitting here. She's having an interaction with the cop.
You better fucking not. That's where we got.
She says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. What was it that prompted that phraseology? Let's replay.
Huh?
They're laughing. They're joking around. I mean, before that, they were questioning her about a multitude of things, but they're laughing and they don't appear to be in any kind of a jackpot. But then this happens.
Away from your hot steaming water. Away from hot steaming water? Yeah. Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
When she said that, I don't know where that came from. They were talking about boiling water. I don't know what prompted them to get upset. I don't know if she was joking around when she said that. But their response to that was to point guns in her face.
I'll shoot you in the name. You better fucking not. That's where we got. I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
I will effing shoot you right in your effing face. And he did. So, first degree murder he's being charged with. That is a clear plan prior to the execution that he carried out efficiently and effectively, ending this young lady's life. He said, I'm going to shoot you in the face at the threat of boiling water. Did he even threaten? She did not threaten them. What did she say? I got to replay one more time.
I'll shoot you in the name. You better fucking not. That's where we got. I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
I'm looking at her posture right there. You can't really see what's in her hands or if there's anything in her hands, but she's standing at the stove. This guy's freaking out about the rebuke comments. Gun drawn. She ducks. A couple of times you're going to see.
Fucking drop the fucking pot. Drop the fucking. You better fucking not. That's where we got. I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
She says, okay, I'm sorry. Ducks.
Fucking drop the fucking pot. Drop 14 shots fired.
And that was it. That was a wrap on Sonya Massey. That was a wrap. It's hard to put into words what exactly took place here, because that just looked like a cold-blooded execution. You could say, I've heard people try to argue, well, she was going to throw boiling hot scalding water on him. And there's even some that are trying to break down this video from other body cam footage saying, you can see the droplets of water right there. You hear the officer that fired the shots mentioning, see, the water made it all the way to our feet. We were going to get scalded by this boiling water. We had to do what we did. In the aftermath of that, I thought it was very telling that the officers around him were just kind of not saying anything. Like, dude, you effed up. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Well, this is the response from his superiors so far. The deputy who fatally shot Sonya Massey had all the training that he needed. An Illinois sheriff whose former deputy fatally shot Sonya Massey last month inside her Springfield home told CBS News Thursday that not only had the deputy received training, but he had specifically received extra training to learn how to avoid the use of unwarranted lethal force. This was a rogue individual that acted outside of his scope of authority. Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell said of his former deputy Sean Grayson, he's been arrested. He will pay the price. Campbell said that when he hired Grayson in May of 2023, the new deputy received twice as much training as other recent hires. Campbell said he received workplace performance reviews from the law enforcement agencies where Grayson had previously worked, which noted that he needed more training. If he needed more training, and they knew that, why would they send him back out there? And even if they did send him back out there, why was he the lead point of contact in that scenario? Grayson worked for 6 different law enforcement agencies in Illinois since 2020, including the Pawnee, Kincaid, Burden, and Auburn police departments, as well as the Logan County Sheriff's Office. He was also discharged from the Army in February 2016 after serving for about 19 months. He had all the training he needed. He just didn't use it, Campbell said. Grayson is being held in the Menard County Jail after being charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder in the July 6th killing of Massie, a black mother of 2 who was shot in the head by the deputy inside her home after calling 911 to report a suspected prowler. In the face, not even center mass. That's what they teach. Shoot center mass, which is effectively also a kill shot. But there was not even an attempt to try to tase. There wasn't an attempt to incapacitate. There were 3 of them standing in there. And that was a smallish, petite-ish looking lady all by herself in a bathrobe. And he shot her in the face. Yeah.
Someone sent a link. So if you go to the private chat, I put it in the private chat for the second body cam.
Oh, let's take a look at, we're going to take a look at, thank you so much, whoever sent us that link. But this is I think this is video of the second body cam. We're going to take a look at that. But Brian Wilson, thank you so much for the 10, says, not that it was called for, but if anything, they should have tried for non-lethal methods. Exactly. She was a small woman. There was no reason to pull a gun, even if they threw boiling water at her. I mean, they didn't. Once she throws it, it's done. Go tackle her, put her in cuffs, take her to the sheriff's. She'll have some choice words. You guys will have some choice words. Take her back. She's arrested. And she's probably out by now. And does it become a story at that point? I don't know. But the lady didn't have to lose her life like that. And instead, it's become this national outrage news topic that everybody's talking about. And this guy might have just thrown the rest of his own life away if he gets convicted of first-degree murder. Whether or not that actually happens, I guess we'll see. There's a rich history of cops not having to face any consequences for this kind of conduct. So I guess we will see. But let's take a look at this other body cam footage. Yeah, so I think this is Nate the lawyer. Yeah, Nate the lawyer. This is a Twitter post, and this is the footage from the officer's vantage point that fired the shots. Let me just make sure I'm sharing my screen. The right one, and then we will take a look at that. Yes, this one. Okay.
Of the Sonya Massey shooting, and the question is whether she threw a pot of hot water at the officers. We're going to play it in slow motion.
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired!
As you can see from this video, Massey gets up from the floor, grabs the pot, and tosses the pot toward the officers. You can see the water from the pot splash right here and the steam come up from where the water hits the floor. So does this new camera angle change anything for you? You can see from this video, Massey gets up from the floor.
All right, so she's getting up from the floor. Is there a way to slow this down? I'll just do it like this. I'm going to slow this down to 0.25 and see. Let's mute that. Okay, so she's definitely getting up. She definitely has a pot raised over her head. But just playing devil's advocate here. If you've ever been in that position and you're off balance, the first thing you do to regain your balance is throw your head over your hands. It's just a natural athletic movement. And she appears to be falling backwards. Am I missing that? Let's see again. Okay, so she ducks. She ducks. Let's play it from here. Well, we're not going to see that part of it. Well, initially, okay, so here she is initially. All right, now it's going way too slow. All right, so she has oven mitts on. The pot is on the stove. I guess you could argue if she wasn't intending on throwing it, there would have been no reason for her to pick up a boiling pot of water. That would be a fair argument. So, come on, man. All right. Hands over her head. She ducks. Out of view. At some point, she gets back up. She would have had to grab the pot of water. She's raising up. Yeah, she definitely flung it. She definitely flung it. I don't give a shit about where the water landed, honestly. Yeah, I mean, she's in the act of what appears to be flinging the pot of water. I guess the question is, would she have done that had these officers not unnecessarily escalated the way that they did? Because there was no indication prior to that she was planning on throwing anything at the officers. She makes a comment about rebuking the officer in the name of Jesus. And then that was it. And then he freaked out. Let's hear the audio again. Let me put it at normal speed, though. Did that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I muted
The
it.
officers. We're going to play it in slow motion.
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
All right. So to be fair, he did tell her to drop the effing pot a few times. And then at that point, it did appear that she was trying to throw the pot of water to him. Does it change my opinion about the officer's conduct? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. He provoked it. Because look, what's the worst case scenario? That this is a mentally deranged woman that's intending to harm you by throwing scalding hot water on you, and you're standing an appropriate distance away. At the most, you might have got some burns. You might have got burned. I guess what's the absolute worst scenario? Hot boiling water to the face. All right. So why were their guns drawn as opposed to tasers, as opposed to non-lethal weapons in that scenario would be my biggest question. Why are we shooting to kill in that scenario? Lady was not a criminal. She was not, she was literally calling law enforcement for help because she saw a prowler. She invited them into their home. Here's the full video. I mean, I'm not going to play the entire thing, but this is where it all started off with. Before we get to any of that, it started off as just a random routine call for help. How do I share my screen? Keep on losing the screen. Yeah, this is how it starts. This is the entire incident. They're approaching the house. They get there. They're looking for a prowler. Presumably, that's what she called him for. And then she answered.
Oh, it hurt you. You called us. So what'd you hear?
Somebody came outside my house.
Yeah.
Is this your car over here?
Please, God, please.
Is this your car over here? Oh.
Okay. Could I just make an observation? Listen, when a young lady is calling law enforcement for help because of an intruder, I just feel like the approach might have been a little bit different. If they weren't already predisposed to disliking this young lady, I feel like it would have been, is everything okay? What did you see? You want to tell us all about it? But they're very aggressive with her just from the jump. Am I imagining it, or is that what's on camera?
Go ahead. You come in the door or not? All right, hurry up.
I will say this. I've had one interaction with law enforcement in this capacity in my life where the officers were coming to my door. It was because I left the garage door open. It was like 3 a.m. And then somebody rung the doorbell, and I don't think I had a ring cam at that point. And so I literally walked down. I had a baseball bat in hand, and there was 2 officers there. One of them was a female, one was a male. And they were being totally cool. I literally didn't know that there was the cops. I looked outside, I mean, I saw it was them through the peephole, but they were just being completely polite about it. There was no reason for them to get angry about it. They were coming to my house just basically, hey, your garage door is open, which is cool of them. But they just start out so aggressive with her. And then he opens the door.
How would it hurt you? You called us.
Okay,
So what'd you hear?
somebody keeps outside my house, y'all. Please,
Is this your car over here?
please, God, please, God, please.
Is this your car over here?
Uh-uh,
Oh,
please, God.
that's not your black car in the driveway?
Mm-mm,
Oh, well, we checked your yard. We walked around the whole block. We didn't see anybody.
mm-mm.
Right? You know, we don't. I mean, we checked the whole area. There's nobody out walking around.
I know, y'all. Please, God, please, God. I'm trying to get help, y'all, but
I will grant this, that her behavior is a little odd. She keeps on saying, please God, repeatedly. They are literally there to help her. And she says, I'm trying to keep help. I'm trying to get help here. And she's on her phone. She's not responding fully to their questions. I can understand why that is aggravating, but it just continues.
What do you need help with?
nothing. I just, please, God, please, God, please. I don't know what to do.
Do with what?
Huh?
What do you need help with?
Nothing. I just wanted to see if I could help me.
What do you want help with?
Huh?
What do you want help with?
I heard somebody outside.
Yeah, we checked your house. We checked your backyard. I walked all the way through all these backyards. We checked your front yard.
We didn't see nobody.
Yeah,
So
nobody's out here.
You didn't see anybody?
Nope.
nope.
Oh,
Checked the whole area.
okay.
What took you so long to answer the door?
Oh, I was trying to put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry. I was trying to get.
I got you. All right. Is there anything else we can do for you?
Huh?
Is there anything else I can do for you?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
You doing all right mentally?
Yes.
Sure.
My medicine and stuff.
All right.
I love y'all. Thank y'all.
All right. That's not your black car though. The SUV. Whose is it?
Doesn't it feel like the interaction just should have ended right there? Shouldn't that have just been the end of it? Now I was asking her about a car that she already said, and I had no idea whose cars that was. He asked her specifically about her mental health. They were about to leave, and then he just continues with this line of questioning.
You don't know if someone just parked it in your driveway.
They brought it to my driveway.
And just left it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's run that.
Yeah. 19, I got a 20 clear.
Does anyone else live here with you?
Somebody else.
David Mary 43556.
You got a name? You got an idea or something? Take your name real quick. Catch this.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit because
Here, grab your ID for
they start just getting real aggressive with her. They're inside the house now. At this point, somehow they went from about to leave. Now they're in the house and they're questioning her about other stuff as if she is a suspect for something.
me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You
Is it in
have-
that stack right there, maybe?
God, at this point, she calls for help with a prowler. And now they're somehow in her house and she's getting questioned about ID and her paperwork and things at, some ungodly hour of the morning. She's in her night clothes. This is a mother of two. She's like 33, 32 years old or something like that. What are we doing right now?
1 second.
Check on her.
Let me do this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name
You
of
better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
All right. So, Jesus. Let me get my ID. Let me get my paperwork. Where are you going? Away from the hot steaming water. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I will shoot you in your effing face. And then
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot!
I don't know, folks. You know, sometimes when you see this kind of stuff, what do you even say to that? What do you really say to that? You got this young lady. She's a mother to 2 children, and now she's not. She was literally, it went from, hey, I need help, there's a prowler outside, to the officers are questioning her inside the house as if she's a suspect because of some mysterious black SUV that she already said multiple times it didn't belong to her. And then she's digging around for ID and paperwork. For what exactly? She goes over to the kitchen. They make a joking comment about getting away from steaming water. She says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I'm going to shoot you in the face. And then she's shot in the face. Hey, we're going to go get the emergency kit. Yeah, well, you might as well not, because that was a headshot. She's gone. That's how that went down. Now, telling is the nervousness you can just, that is so dense in this room of the other officers. And I feel like even the shooter, Mr. Casey himself, he knows that he fucked up.
Bring emails now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078. Fuck.
I was on. I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, headshot, dude. You're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. God damn it.
God, fuck.
Dude, I'm not taking fucking boiling water in the fucking head. And look, it fucking came right to our feet, too. God damn it.
Fuck. God damn it.
You good?
I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. What's her got? Let her fucking just.
God.
There's nothing we can do, man.
Fuck.
Nothing you can do, man.
You good? All right. Fuck.
And then one more time from Mr. Casey's body cam. Or actually, I don't think that's Casey's body cam. I think that's the other officer that was in there with him. But that's the situation. That is the scenario. That's how it all went down. Jack Campbell, the county sheriff, Saginaw County sheriff over there, said that this was a rogue individual that acted outside the scope of his authority. They're not co-signing on his, they're not trying to defend him. It's like, hey, he should have known better, is basically what he's saying. He's been arrested. He's going to pay the price. Campbell said that when he hired him in May 2023. This is a red flag to me. So he was hired in May 2023. He received twice as much training as other individuals. Campbell said he received workplace performance reviews from the law enforcement agencies from Grayson, where he had previously worked, which noted that he needed more training. He worked for 6 different law enforcement agencies in Illinois since 2020. And he was discharged from the Army. It doesn't say under what circumstances, in February of 2016, after serving about 19 months. He had all the training he needed. Body cam video showed Grayson, who was white, shooting. They got to make sure that they identify him as white, shooting Campbell in her kitchen while she was holding a pot of water. Massey's mom, Donna Massey, says she had also called 911 the day before the shooting, requesting help for her daughter, describing her as having a mental breakdown. I'm not going to look. She appeared to be suffering from some kind of mental breakdown. You don't just start using that kind of religious phraseology without some kind of something going on. What's up, Pam? Thank you so much for the 20. She says that the officer that pew-pews her and then told the officer not to render a discussing. Yeah, I agree. How do you even defend that? It's just, some things are indefensible. And the sheriff's department themselves are not trying. They're not even trying to defend him. What's to defend? He shouldn't have done it. It was clearly a lady who was mentally ill. She very clearly didn't have a weapon. She had a pot of boiling water. Threatened to shoot her in the face. She ducks, says, "I'm sorry," and then he opens fire. It just seems like more discerning officers with more experience and better ability to navigate high pressure situations, it wouldn't have ended this way. What could I say? Campbell says the sheriff's office didn't have that information when Grayson was hired, which seems a little weird because they have access to all of those background checks, but told CBS News that while he would have rather had it, he can't speculate whether it would have changed his decision to hire Grayson. That just tells me that there's probably a lack of applicants for that position. Why would you want to work in law enforcement? Why? Let's just say that you go into law enforcement with the best of intentions. You really want to make a difference. You've been a fan of law enforcement all your life. The second you find yourself in a jackpot like that, one wrong move, even if it was justified, and you could be charged with murder in a case like that, why would you want to put yourself in that kind of a situation? It's no wonder that there's a shortage of applicants for law enforcement positions such as this one. It's no wonder why they're being forced to take on people like this, because we make it so hard for people in law enforcement to do their jobs. We make, you have these sovereign citizens and you have these people these public auditors, they'll go out there, they'll literally just start causing trouble at these checkpoints, and they want to make their YouTube videos and they'll post on them, giving a bunch of shit to the officers. Look, you're at a checkpoint, could I have your ID? Nope, I don't answer questions. Roll up the window, and they just make a video of it because they're getting content out of it, which is completely unnecessary, because the correct move is, look, the officer's out there doing a job, help him do his job. Show him your freaking ID and be on your way. Like, why do we got to make a whole social issue out of it? And then you wonder why, not only are officers dealing with that kind of stuff, they're dealing with genuine murderers and killers and drug dealers and people that pose real, genuine threats to society. And they're putting themselves out there every day. And then something like this happens. Because I don't know anything about this guy, Grayson. I don't know what was going on in his life to cause him to escalate so quickly. But you wonder why law enforcement is so on edge when they're dealing with that on a 24/7 basis. And then we wonder why we don't have better qualified law enforcement officers to navigate these kinds of situations. So yes, it was the brutal execution of a mother of two unnecessarily. That's the easiest thing to label it. The deeper question would be, how do you fix it? And look, the problem is you're going to see cases like this, and then you're going to see very minor cases that people are going to try to elevate into something that it isn't. And people are going to try to dishonestly use those to their own advantages, for their own gain, for their own whatever, for comments, for likes or whatever. And we're not going to be willing to acknowledge in some of these situations that law enforcement officials have a tough job because of these extreme examples of misconduct. So my heart breaks for this young lady's children, for her family, for her herself. I mean, she was 30-something years old, man. There's no reason for her to be dead right now. But I've seen what working in law enforcement does to a man. I've had a lot of really good friends that have spent years in law enforcement, and it changes them from the inside. I oftentimes say that being a lawyer is really bad for your soul. I say that. But how much worse when you're dealing with the literal scum, and not everybody is scum, but they have to physically encounter the literal scum of society and somehow find ways to mentally cope with it so that they don't become rotten from the inside themselves. So what's my take on the Massey case, this situation? Just don't really know what to say, man. How do you call it? It's just tragic. This man is going to pay. Grayson, they say he's going to pay. Maybe he's going to pay. He's going to try to claim self-defense. He's going to try to say whatever. Imagine if this effing guy is acquitted. Could you imagine if this guy were to be acquitted in Illinois? The outcry, the prospective riots. My God. People have rioted for much less. Well, folks, I think we're going to transition to talk about this Olympic stuff. Oops. Hey, what's the transition button?
Suck my.
It's not that one. Nope. There it is. All right. Well, folks, have you been watching the Olympics? Did any of you guys see the fight last night where there was allegedly. Now, I've heard different accounts of the fight between Imane, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Imane Khelif, I think, Imane Khelif. She was disqualified from a couple of competitions back in 2023 for being the incorrect gender. But there's also AP reports out there that say that when she was born, she was labeled a female. It's on her passport. She's labeled as a female. Whether or not she's biologically male or female, I don't know. And I know that there's many of you that are going to question, well, what determines what male and female is? And my answer to that is very simple. Historically, it's been the presence of an X or a Y chromosome. There was one of you that commented very, in the wee hours of the morning. Canuck said that I object to men defining womanhood, which I don't know where this statement came from, because before that, they say if you let transgendered females compete in women's sports, you might as well have bi-gender teams or non-binary competitions altogether. And my answer to that, to Canuck, is there's not nearly enough of people that identify as that, where you're going to get a third gender-specific sport, let alone have it sanctioned in the Olympics or other professional organizations. It's unrealistic to consider that. Then they go on to say, remember the show In Living Color? Oh, I do. Jim Carrey played a female exercise teacher. That's what bi-gender female athletes are like. It's not acceptable. I don't remember Jim Carrey playing the female exercise teacher, but I do remember him playing like that cop, that weird cop. And then goes on to say, I object to men defining womanhood, to which I said, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that your definition of womanhood has nothing to do with sex or gender. Dominic gave me a funny look.
No, I was just saying where you got these comments from.
Oh, they're from the very top. They're from the very top. Yeah. And so, look, this is not a question of womanhood. This isn't even so much a question of gender. This is not an indictment on the trans community. It doesn't speak to what you identify as. It's not a discussion on pronouns, whether or not you're for or against. It's just not. It's an issue of safety. Let's just say, for argument's sake, because I've thought until I saw the AP articles this morning that specifically stated that this boxer was born a female. I was having a discussion with Dominic earlier this morning before we went live, stating that, they got to draw the line somewhere. And it seems like the XY chromosome discussion is the ideal marker to do that. Now, there's doctors that are going to go out there and they're going to say that, look, just because X and Y chromosomes are a thing doesn't mean that that is proof or dispositive of what somebody actually biologically is, male or female. And then they would go on this whole discussion about how the X and the Y chromosome set up a physiological chain of events that dictate how you develop. And biological males scientifically develop greater bone density, greater muscle density, greater muscle endurance. I don't think that some women really truly understand how much stronger men are than women. I just don't think that people really understand how wide the gap is there. And if you have biological males that have been males all their life, and all of a sudden they're identifying as female, and they're allowed to compete in female sports, they've had the benefit of this superior physiological development for athletic purposes that they're now going to perpetrate on biological females that have not had the same benefit of testosterone and this physiological male chain of events that has strengthened their athletic prowess. And you're going to see what happened yesterday. We'll watch the whole fight. Let's watch the whole fight. and I'm going to break it down as best I can with you. It lasted about 45 seconds. This was the fight. Let me share my screen, and then we'll get to it. No. Shit. Technical difficulties. I swear, I just thought I had it pulled up. Is it this? Oh, I'm screwing up right now. All right, let me get out of that. And then let me go into, all right, I got to get rid of all the Sonya Massey stuff. That's what's going on. Get rid of that, get rid of that. I will get rid of this. And now, if this will let me, there we go. All right. I apologize, folks. It's a live show. But if you didn't know that this live stream that we do, Dominic always cleans it up and re-releases it as the edited, cleaned up version. In case you were wondering, this version will be out around noon tomorrow. But let's take a look at this full fight. Am I on the screen, Dominic?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the entire fight. I'm going to explain what's going on. Carini is the actual female. It's the Italian boxer. She's all in blue. The fighter in question is the one in red.
Straight punches to the body of Carini.
A clean, straight right hand to the nose, and just said, "The hell with that. I'm done. Let's take another look." It is. So the fight is, I'd never been hit like that before, ever in my life. Let me send you link. Hey Dominic,
Yeah.
Do you have access to Lauren Neidigh's? Well, Lauren Neidigh was going to come and join us for this portion of the show, and so before I wanted her to speak her opinion. She has some thoughts about it, but I got to make sure she was going to come on, but her power is out, and so I'm not sure if she's going to be able to or not, but I'm going to try. She has a link. If she's able to make it, then she'll well, I guess she'll make it. But if not, then we'll just continue. So at some point, just if she joins on, just let me know, Dominic.
Okay. I'm gonna message her in Discord.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a doctor that comes on and he gives a full-on explanation about. Now, first, I want to start off with this. The Olympic officials, they addressed the gender eligibility issues, and this is what they had to say. They say, the case of the two Olympic boxers has drawn attention to a thorny issue. Who and what determines which female athletes can compete? Algerian boxer Imane Khelif and Lin Yu-ting of Taiwan both were disqualified from the 2023 Women's Boxing World Championships when they reportedly failed to, gender eligibility test. But this week, the IOC confirmed the two boxers have been cleared to compete here at the Paris Games, as they both did at the Tokyo Games in 2021. The issues of so-called gender verification or sex testing have fueled discussion at the Olympics as the fighters prepare to enter the ring in North Paris. So Khelif was that was the boxer in question in red. She was silver medalist at the 2022 World Championships, is scheduled to fight Thursday against Angela Carini. Oh, this was just them. And this was their explanation about why she was allowed to fight. They said, yeah, it's tricky. I don't know exactly what their circumstances are. IOC spokesman Mark Adams indicated Tuesday that no personal information about the boxers' medical histories would be disclosed. They've been competing in boxing for a very long time. They've achieved all the eligibility requirements in terms of sex and age. We're following the rules in place in Tokyo. And people are like, what does that even mean? Well, there was another article that just came out this morning from the AP that kind of further clarifies that the boxer in question might just be a biological female. It says Algerian boxer Imane Khelif was landed in the middle of a divide about gender in sports after her Italian competitor Angela Carini pulled out seconds into their bout at the Paris Olympics. Outcry has come from conservatives like former U.S. President Donald Trump and Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni. Khelif was disqualified from the 2023 World Championships after failing unspecified and untransparent eligibility tests for women competition from the now banned International Boxing Association. Khelif was assigned female at birth, and it says so on her passport, which is the International Olympic Committee's threshold for eligibility for boxing because of the rift between the sport's governing body and the IOC. Khelif is a formidable athlete with respected fighting skills, contending in top international events, including major amateur boxer tournaments over the past 6 years, such as the Tokyo Olympics. She's won a few regional gold medals. But Khelif was decidedly not known as a dominant champion, an overpowering force, or even a particularly hard puncher at her weight, not until this week in Paris. Khelif defeated Carini in just 46 seconds Thursday, with the Italian boxer's tearful abandonment of the fight leading to innumerable portrayals of Khelif as an unstoppable punching machine whose presence threatens the health of her opponents. So who is this boxer? She was born in 1999 from rural northwestern Algeria. Her father initially didn't approve of his girls participating in boxing, but Khelif said she gave up soccer as a teenager to pursue her new passion, even though she had to travel 10 kilometers each way to the gym. Khelif eventually caught the attention of Algeria's national team, making her major tournament debut in 2018 with a first-round loss at the AIBA, now the International Boxing Association World Championships. She lost 5 of her first 6 elite-level bouts, but improved and excelled. So this part of the story, before this morning, I had no idea. If this lady, Imane Khelif, is a biological female and was identified as a biological female at birth, then to me, this discussion is over. Then Carini just got her ass kicked by a woman. And, you know, what's the reason that we're having this discussion? Well, the reason we're even having this discussion is because she was disqualified in 2023 from the World Championships based on gender-specific qualification standards that were centered around testosterone markers. But testosterone markers are not the telltale end-all be-all dispositive issue when it comes to determining who is male, who is female. To me, that's always been a chromosome issue for the reasons that I stated at the very beginning, that when you're assigned this XY chromosome, it sets up a chain of physiological development cues that cause you to have superior athletic genetics when it comes to competing. And that the problem with allowing individuals who identify as female, even though they are biologically male, is that it provides a ready-made humongous advantage if you're allowed to compete against other biological females because of the development process. There was a doctor that came out with a video, and I want to listen to it with you guys because he kind of breaks down in the simplest terms possible exactly what that means. He's very careful because he doesn't want to take any sides. He has no position at all. He's just saying, look, medically, this is what's going on, and this is why we're having this discussion. He's trying to be extremely fair to people that are identifying as female, even though they might traditionally be labeled biologically males. And this is the explanation that he gives, and we're going to take a listen to it. Just let me get it up on the screen. It is, here it is. All right, let me just share my screen with him. This guy's name is Dr. Brian Studerer. He's got a YouTube channel, a very successful one at that. Let me get him on screen so that we can all listen together. Here we go. All right, here's his explanation.
Between male and female and subsequent gender identity is as simple as having or not having an X chromosome, then please stick around and watch this video to try and learn a little bit about this crazy controversy that's going on in the Olympic world. Imane Khelif is identifying as a woman. She's in female women's boxing, but there's a lot of talk that people saying she's a male. She's had these previous disqualifications for having XY chromosomes and failed gender testing. And so why in the world are we letting a man compete in a woman's sport, especially boxing? This is not the first time we've seen a big story like this. You might remember this track and field athlete, Caster Semenya, who was a middle distance runner who was disqualified from running certain events because of this whole differences in sexual development diagnosis and picture. This is going to be as simple as possible of an embryology or the study of how we grow and develop, genetics and physiology lesson, so I can try to open people's mind to some of these challenging discussion points. Our genes are the blueprint for how our body functions and is built and is made. We get 1/2 of our genes from our mother and 1/2 from our father. That means most humans will have 2 genes for sex. That can be either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. Now, typically a female sex will have an X and an X chromosome, and a male sex will have an X and a Y. The contents of those chromosomes are what determine how we are going to develop either into a female, talking about sex again, or a male, again, talking about sex. So classic female sex, XX, classic male sex, XY. Now, interestingly, whenever we are first conceived in the womb, we all start off and we have the potential for our sexual organs, our gonads.
Bring you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to welcome to the stage Lethal Lauren 904, Lauren Neidigh, the immaculate, the unflappable, going through a power outage right now, who came in specifically because she had some opinions and thoughts to share about this specific issue. How you doing, Lauren?
Hey, I'm all right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, ma'am. You were on the stage. You were officially in the arena.
Yeah, I've never done this on my phone before, so I wasn't sure.
I've done it once while I was going on a boomer vacation, driving to, I think I did it with you.
You did.
You did. One of the frames. Yeah. I know it's startling, but technology nowadays. Yeah. So what did you think about, well, first I'm going to go finish this explanation from this doctor who was explaining that the X and Y chromosome is not, the only marker. There's this whole physiological chain that you got to pay attention to, and he's kind of going through the whole science of it. Before I interrupt him any further, let me let him finish.
Sure.
Either female or male. The presence of specific genes on the Y chromosome differentiate that down a pathway to become male. So without that Y chromosome turning on the pathway to become male, everybody would go down the female path in terms of their sexual development. So if you have a normal functioning Y chromosome that turns on the pathway to send you down to have male sexual characteristics, male genitalia, etc. That's the basic black and white kind of bread and butter of how things normally go. But as you can imagine, there are a lot of possible errors in not only the genetic composition, but also what happens from the downstream physiology standpoint. On that Y chromosome is a specific gene that turns on a lot of the testosterone, the androgen signaling pathways that form the gonads, the external and internal sexual characteristics. So we're talking about the external signs like breast, gonads, etc., versus the internal genetics. With these differences or disorders of sexual differentiation, or DSD, the genetics are XY, so you have that Y chromosome that's trying to turn on the pathway to fully have those male characteristics, but there's abnormalities that don't give the normal male gonads, male hormone profiles. So what you are left with is a very convoluted, very complicated picture of varying degrees of both physiology from a hormone standpoint to external physical characteristics that are what we see when we look at somebody to make us think male or female in the traditional sense.
All right. So to pause him for a minute, what he's essentially saying to my ears is that, look, X and Y chromosomes determine certain, it basically sets off this physiological chain of events and how you develop, and gives you female or male characteristics. But then he goes on to say that some, obviously, with all the millions of different variations on all of those things, there's going to be some variance, and a lot of things could go wrong, and somebody can be a biological female and appear outwardly to be male and vice versa and all of these things. And he doesn't really go into what people identify it. I think he's trying to keep it very physiological, and it's really specific to this issue of sports. And really what I'm interpreting this to mean is that you can be a biological male and have effeminate features, but you'll still have all of the hallmarks of development that comes from being a male, which would include greater bone density, greater muscle mass, greater muscle density, greater muscle endurance, all of these things that make males better athletes in general than biological females. So then what do you do when you have this androgynous through some kind of variation of the DNA chain, this androgynous person that would be technically a biological female that ends up with some of the characteristics of male development? Because I don't know if you knew this or not before I texted you last night about it, but you know, the fighter in question.
Yep.
I just found out in an AP article this morning that was actually born a woman.
Yeah. So
Was born a female, from birth. That's what's on his passport, has always identified as a female. She has this whole backstory about how she was playing soccer and she would rather be a fighter. And she was actually really bad at it first, and she worked really hard, and she just beat this lady's ass in 46 seconds. And everybody's up in arms because in 2023, she had elevated levels of testosterone.
Right.
And I think in the press conference yesterday, one of the ILC officials was very careful to say, look, testosterone is not the dispositive issue as it relates to biological gender assignment. It is a marker. Certainly, yes, males have more testosterone than females, of course, but there's also biological males walking around there with no testosterone for various different reasons. And so it's a really poor indicator of biology. If you've seen pictures of this lady, she looks like a guy. I don't know how else to put it, but she looks like a man. If I were to see her walking down the street, she has very male facial features. When you see her in the ring with Karini, it's very striking, the difference. Let me see if I can get one on my screen. So this is, I'm just pulling images from the internet. This is her. This is her. And let me share my screen real quick so that everybody can see what I'm talking about. And this is Imane Khelif. Just very masculine features. Now, some would argue that why does she look masculine? Maybe she just ain't wearing makeup, but I don't know, man. But just if just looking at her, looking at this picture right here, this is Karini as she's crying and walking out the ring. And then this is Khelif. If you were to look at that, I don't know, and I don't know any better, I would assume that was a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, there are, like lots of biological women who have masculine features, but like they're not fighting them in a boxing ring, so it's a little more prominent, I feel like, at this point. So I didn't know either at first that this person was born as a biological female. It feels really complex, just especially because of that. But like, this is something that I feel like I don't hear talked about very rationally very often, just because there's such a visceral reaction on both sides. So like, if you say you don't think somebody with like male traits should be competing against women, then people will say like you're a transphobe and you're not worth listening to, and basically you're a terrible person. And if you're on the other side, then people will say you're delusional, and why would you think that this is okay, and stuff like that. So there's just like I don't see a lot of civil conversation about it. And so like it makes it harder to get like decent information regarding like the kind of advantages or disadvantages of somebody going through a transition being in a women's sport. But it just, to me, like, especially having been in the LGBT community and I used to be involved in a lot of nonprofits and do some work with those, and I have a lot of friends who are trans, and I love them dearly. But if you say that you don't think a trans person or somebody with an XY chromosome should be competing in women's sports, you run the risk of like alienating those people out of your life, because they're going to think that you're a transphobe, like you don't support me, like living as a woman. And it's really difficult to even talk about. and then somebody in the comment there says Riley Gaines talks about this all the time. Riley Gaines is a former NCAA swimmer. I think she swam at Kentucky. Around the time when I was swimming, she was a few years younger than me, I think. And I do see like her takes on this, and I think like there's just a lot of kind of like hateful words in her like conversations about it, and it takes away from like the valid points that she does have, and like even saying that she does have some like valid like basis behind all that like kind of rhetoric. There's like some factual concerns about like why biological non-females would be competing in women's sports, but it's just like so hard to listen to, just the way it's being talked about. So it's hard to even really say, but I know that she was born a woman, but like it's really like it's unfair in a way that she should have to be subject to this kind of like criticism and stuff when she was never at any point in her life a male. But it's at the same time it's like it does seem like a safety issue. If somebody has like more testosterone and a different kind of body build and like an unfair advantage, like should that person be able to compete with somebody who's honestly in comparison seems a little bit fragile, if that makes sense?
I can't tell you how fast my opinion on this flipped just instantly when I found out that she was actually born a female. Because when I was talking to my wife about it yesterday, I was going on this whole rant. I was ready to go all in on this issue. But to your point about the civil conversation surrounding this issue, I have a much different perspective. I used to, a million years ago, I used to compete and I was a wrestler. I used to compete like competitively. And there was always like these rogue 1 or 2 women that would try to compete with the men because there was not a female wrestling team. But from the male perspective, especially going back when you were, teenagers, like if I wrestle this girl and I win, I'm an asshole. If I lose, I just got beat by a girl. It puts the male in such an unfair, especially back in the 90s, which is when I was competing like that. I don't know how that atmosphere has changed, but I used to feel so sorry for the females. Like they're just trying to get, they just want to compete, man.
Yeah. Right. And
then for young boys, 14, 15 years old that are like going through puberty and you're in all these weird wrestling positions with a female, I'd imagine I never had to wrestle a female because the ones that were wrestling when I was wrestling were in much lower weight classes. I wrestled at 145. Most of the girls would wrestle like at 103, 112, those kinds of weight classes. But that's, there obviously were females that would compete at higher weight classes, but there was always this male stigma to it. Like you don't ever want to be in a position to wrestle a girl because what if you lose? That's the first fear. Man, if I do, I just got my ass kicked by a girl, and then what?
Wait, did that ever happen?
Well, it's definitely happened that males and females have competed in wrestling events. Yes.
But did it happen to you? I mean,
oh, not to me. No.
Okay.
It did not, but I promise you, if I looked across the mat and it's a girl, my first fear is you better not lose to this girl, man, because you're never going to hear the end of it. And then, which was, I don't know how that would affect my performance or not, or whatnot, but that's always number one. And then number two is okay, but if I win, what do I get out of this? Like I just beat up a girl. And then I look like the asshole. It's this weird mental hurdle that you have to get over. I felt heartbroken for this young lady, Khelif, because the world is reacting as if she is a man.
Yeah.
And they're reacting that way. Like people have come out and obliterated this lady because they're under the assumption that she was a man based on gender qualification markers.
Yeah.
That don't make any sense based on testosterone or whatnot. She was disqualified from the 2023 World Championships because she had elevated levels of testosterone. And I just made the point that, look, I know that there's 100% men out there that don't produce testosterone because of abuse of steroids, because of, whatever deficiencies. And there are definitely women that produce more testosterone than normal men. It's just, they're anomalies. They happen. And they end up having these male characteristics. But it doesn't change the fact that there has to be a line drawn in the sand where we say, okay, your biology is that of a male or is that of a female, and that we cannot, because of what you just said, safety issues. If you have, look, I brought up the example of Lucia Riker. Do you know who that is?
I don't think I do. Do I?
If not, it's okay. But she is considered by some to be the greatest female boxer who ever lived. She was a killer. She was a she was so, I don't know if you ever saw that movie $1 Million Baby. And if not, it's like 20 years old.
I did not yet.
Well, she's the villain in that movie. She's this female boxer. And she was just, she hit hard. She looked like a guy. She hit like a guy. She fought really well. She was technically, she was just really, really good. And then she wanted to voluntarily compete against men. And then like, all right, fine. So you have literally what some consider are the greatest female fighter who ever lived going up against the most average of basic average male boxers. They fought in a kickboxing match. And she looked more technically proficient than him. She had a lot more skill than him, but he just beat her ass down because he was stronger. I'm going to show you the video. I'm going to show you the end of it. Like, you could tell that she knew how to fight. You could tell that she was better than him. But the way that he beat her was just this brute force destruction that you got to see. This is what happens when the very best of the best females fight an average male fighter. All right, let me get up on my screen. I got to get better at this, man. I got to get more streamlined. When I'm trying to share my screen and stuff. Okay, so here is the fight in question. By the way, I met this lady in person once. Absolutely terrifying. I wouldn't want to get in the ring with her. She whooped my ass. I was telling Dominic, hey, Dominic, I think she could take you. Dominic weighs like 250. All right, so this is the boxer. He is a male boxer. Just historically had been very average to mid, whatever. That's him. Well, he's in the green trunks. And you see Reichert, she is the one in the red shorts. Obviously, he's wearing a shirt and stuff, and they're just kind of getting ready. They're doing this kickboxing match. It's sanctioned internationally or whatever. And then as the fight goes on, you'll just see there's a clear skill divide, but there is a very clear and proficient physicality divide, and that's what rules the day. So Reichert is in the red trunks. He's got sweat.
Yeah.
She's not a chunking there. I mean, she's holding her own.
Yeah, she's good.
But look, those kicks would be devastating to a female. But she's kicking this guy, and it's like he's swatting off a fly.
It looked like she just like fell over, did she? Or
Yeah, she lost her balance, but she's losing her balance because she's kicking this guy, and he's just not budging, and it's causing her to lose her balance. She's not used to it.
Right.
That's straight right, like a champ. She took it. It's overpowering her. Yeah. And my only point in showing this clip is she's literally the best of the best. Like, there's maybe 2 or 3 women that might be able to be in the stratosphere skill-wise with Lucia Reichert. And this is just her average run-of-the-mill bullshit boxer in there. And I'll just show you the end so we can get through it. It's like a 6-minute clip. So she actually does pretty well in this last exchange, but she just gets caught. Like that. Yeah.
Oh man. Ouch.
That's best of the best, man.
Yeah.
And so it is not a scientific argument. There's no scientific argument to be made that females could stand on an equal playing field with men.
Well, there's this issue that keeps coming up, and this is coming up in the comments a lot right now. So it's not fair, right, to her, because she did work very hard to get to where she is, and I don't want to like discredit that or discount that at all, because it's got to be super fucking hard to work like day in and day out for that long to make it to the Olympics. But at the same time, it isn't fair based on biology. So saying like it's not fair, it's just because of what she looks like, or saying like imagine how she's feeling so terrible and stuff like that. Like, I agree that some of the comments that are being made online are terrible, but the fact that people don't want somebody who could be potentially unsafe to the other competitors to be in the same ring, like, that's not horrid. That's not like scandalous. That's just like people want, the sports to be fair and to be safe. So like it's really hard to talk about this without somebody getting defensive and saying something like, no, you just like, you think she looks like a man or whatever. And like, I'm like, no, dude, like I totally 100% support, like she was born as a woman. I would never call her a man or like, like try to call her the wrong name or anything like that. I'd never tell her not to go to the women's bathroom. You know what I'm talking about? But like at the same time, I wouldn't want her to punch me in the face either.
Well, I wouldn't want you to punch me in the face. Could we just not be punching each other in the face? That would be ideal.
But also there was something else. God, what was it? Let me scroll up here. Yeah, somebody said, something about Michael Jordan and, how he was like more talented than the competition, like should she have been able to, like, number one, that's not a combat sport, and number two, like he wasn't playing against girls. It's a little different.
Could I just say that I know the WNBA is having a renaissance and all, and they're gaining in popularity and all, but let us not ever be disillusioned with this idea that they'd be able to take on the NBA in terms of skill. Come on, man.
No,
you guys know, I mean, most WNBA players can't even dunk a basketball. There's like a handful that can actually even dunk a basketball. They don't have the requisite muscle density. They're going to get pushed around. They're going to get thrown around. If you have to post up an NBA guy, it's not happening. I don't care if you're the best NBA whatever rebounder. It's not happening against the worst NBA team. It's just not. There's biological differences. And this doctor actually goes and explains it very well. He just says that, look, there are biological outliers on both sides. You can be a biological female and have very male characteristics that extend into athletic prowess. And it could be on the opposite spectrum of that. Those are outliers. But usually statistical outliers when it comes to genetics are the ones that are the best of the best. The Michael Jordans, the Mike Tysons. They're these freak athletes that have, I mean, if you were to look at it on what is a normal person versus an elite of the superior elite athletes, they are statistical anomalies. And so it stands to reason that there are biological females that would be an outlier for the female gender. And is it fair that they get to compete against regular females and beat them up? Well, yeah, because that's just kind of what we test when we're competing in sports. If she's biologically a female and she's beating the shit out of all these other female boxers, but they're they were both biological females, then what, you want to say that because she has elevated testosterone, she's not allowed to compete? That's not fair. That wouldn't be fair. Now, if you're saying that, oh, I'm born a male, but now I just want to be, I want to be Loretta. Have you ever seen that one, The Life of Brian?
No.
Scene? Oh, I'd play it, but I'm gonna get copyrighted. But it's like, you know what? From henceforth, I shall be named Loretta. Stan, why do you want to be Loretta? I just, I want to have babies. But you can't have babies. Well, at least I want to pretend like I can have babies. And then he's arguing about his right to procreate, shouldn't be oppressed, just for the biological conundrum that he can't biologically actually have babies. And they're having this discussion back in the 70s, man. I think that where people get tripped up with this kind of conversation is they try to attribute this as like an anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti-whatever argument, which it is 100% not.
Right, exactly.
It is. Look, I have a 4 and 5-year-old daughter. I just got done. Well, I'm not done raising her, but my 18-year-old was a soccer player. I was the coach of her soccer team for many years. There was, up until she turned about 11 or 12 years old, they used to do like these co-ed soccer teams, which was really cool because I'd never had the opportunity to coach boys before. And I had these soccer players, and they're like 11, 12 years old. From about age 1 to 11 or 12, boys and girls are basically the same. But there is a very steep separation that happens around that time too. And so when I was coaching them and I was noticing that, okay, I got my best female players, I got my best guy players, and they were on the same field, it was just night and day. They're just faster. They were just stronger already. It's not going to be fair. And fast forward a couple of more years, 2, 3, 4 years, they're going to be like inches taller, maybe a foot or more taller. They're going to out by 40, 50 pounds, and they're still going to be faster. And they're going to still have that same weight, strength separation that they'd always had.
Right.
It's just not biologically fair to allow for men to compete for prize against females. It's just not safe. It is not safe. And so now that was my opinion about this lady last night, Khelif, when I thought that she was actually a guy. But I thought that she was a guy, not because I'd independently checked it. And it wasn't even because I looked at her picture. It's because everybody else was basically talking about her as if she was a guy.
Right. Yeah.
But if she's biologically a female, then hey, that's all fair game to me.
I think people are also making a lot of assumptions based on her like build and stuff like that. So I saw someone just mentioned Phelps, and I have my own opinions on that. Like he was born with like a longer wingspan and stuff like that, and he had some natural advantages that would give him like and people think like Michael Phelps was built that way, so that must automatically be why he was better, and it's absolutely not. Because you saw him get beat like 100 times towards the end of his career. But it's could a long wingspan give him a little bit of an advantage? Sure, but if he didn't practice more than anyone else, he wasn't going to win 8 golds in Beijing. But what I'm saying is like also Katie Ledecky, you look at Katie Ledecky, people are looking at her and saying like she looks manly, and people are now, because they're so up in arms about this stuff, they're being like, there's no way that's a woman and stuff like that. Like I have met Katie Ledecky. There's nothing in the world that should logically make anyone like complain about her competing against women. She has always been a woman, that kind of thing. But she doesn't have like an anomaly with like XY chromosomes or like higher testosterone levels or anything like that, because she's tested for testosterone and stuff like that. So it's just kind of getting to a point where it's getting a little bit ridiculous, A, and then B, like you look at Katie Ledecky, who is like the best of the best, and yes, there are some younger swimmers who have caught up to her now, but who is the best of the best and has been so well known for so long, and it's like she could not compete against those men at all. Like if she was in the men's 400 final, she would have been last by I don't know how long. You know what I mean? So you can be the best of the best in a female sport, but if somebody has a genetically like male build, it's not gonna compare.
Well, I mean, the statistical outliers that you just mentioned, like Shaquille O'Neal was 7'1", 330 pounds or something like that. Statistical outlier for men or women. But he's gonna be those are just the cards you're dealt, man. Some people have superior genetic structures, regardless of biology. And so the question that this one doctor, and I keep on trying to get back to him, but this doctor is making is that look, there is variations in both genders that you have to account for, and it's not as simple as saying XY chromosome and therefore this and that. And then he tries to go on this extended discussion. Let's listen to him again. I'll share the screen again as well. Oh, I have to share that before you guys are going to be able to hear him. All right, so he's back up, and this is what he goes on to say.
Oftentimes with these athletes, that results in higher levels of testosterone that gives them more of this athletic advantage. But because they have any variety of all these different genetic enzymes, testosterone, hormonal dysregulations and abnormalities, they might not have the exact same external features or what we call phenotype that would make us classically think of somebody as male or female. So you can have these individuals who might look more masculine than a female, but whenever they were born, their external genitalia wasn't clearly male or clearly female. And then you can imagine all the stress and anxiety and everything that comes downstream of that when you don't have clearly male or female features. This is not always a black and white thing. And these DSD syndromes, these disorders, are far more common than you would think. These are not like 1 in a million types of things. And if you think of an athletic population where any sort of physiologic advantage might make you rise to the top, there's actually probably a high number of these individuals that are high level athletes because they have had that boost in their physiology. But it's no fault to them. I really encourage people to try and be open-minded and learn or read more about this, because again, it is not as simple as saying so-and-so has an X chromosome, so therefore they are male. There is a lot of potential ambiguity that is no fault to the athlete or that individual. This is a really nice little review paper on PubMed that talks about all these disorders of sexual differentiation. And if we scroll through, I mean, these are all the genes that play a role. This SRY gene is kind of that sex determining part we talked about with the Y chromosome. That's the main male regulator. But you can have abnormalities in that. I mean, all of these different genetic abnormalities that could result in downstream variation. There is so much gray area in this. And so to simplify the question of this Algerian boxer and say, well, she has a Y chromosome, so therefore she absolutely is male.
Which, by the way, this video came out last night, and it was not established that she had a Y chromosome. Matter of fact, the reports were opposite, that she was born a female, suggesting that she was actually born with an X chromosome. But I just want to make that clear.
It is not that simple. It is very, very complicated trying to determine the difference there when you get these DSD individuals. Different sports have different ways of managing this. Track and field has tried to look at some different testosterone levels where you have to be below a certain threshold to compete in certain events that they feel you have a high competitive advantage. But there's no consistency across the sports world in terms of how these athletes are managed and handled when it comes to a sport and differentiation that has been historically male and female. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not going to act like I know the answer for how you handle these athletes who, again, at no fault to their own, are in this really difficult situation where their whole life they have not clearly looked or felt in the classic sense that we think of as male or female. They want to do sports. They want to be athletic. Maybe they're really good at their sports, and so that's a good outlet for them. But then they get further on in life and we discover this thing and we run into these questions of male and female. So think of putting yourself in that woman's shoes. I don't think necessarily that this Algerian boxer is trying to like deceive the system and just win gold medals. But think about being a child and having one of these known diagnosed differences in sexual differentiation syndromes where you don't look like your friends who are female or male. You feel different because of your hormone levels. How are you supposed to put those people in a box of purely male or female? Again, I don't know the solution. I don't know the answer.
So he's going to go on like that for like a minute because he really doesn't want to offend anybody. But I feel like he says we don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. I just feel like based on what he just said, it seems very clear. Like the only true marker we really have for biological male or female, aside from the physiological chain of events that he says occurs upon the assignment of an X or a Y chromosome, is the chromosome issue. If you're born with an X or a Y chromosome, that should be the marker. And if you should happen to have be a biological female and somehow have these statistical variables that allow you to have these greater athletic prowess, to me, that's fair. If you're biological female and you got these better athletic traits that suggest that you might have more male traits, it's not the correct answer to me to say, oh, well, then she was obviously a guy or whatever. How could you be born a biological female and have somebody argue, no, actually you're male, which I feel like is where this doctor was trying to take the conversation. Not that he was trying to take it anywhere. I'm just saying that he suggested that you could be with two X chromosomes and have predominantly male traits. But by no fault of the person, the individual that has those traits, society would try to assign gender based on outward manifestations of masculinity. And vice versa, you can have the Y chromosomes and be biologically and internally male and have these outward manifestations of femininity that are not even a constant. Like back in 1920, we had a very different view of what male and female beauty was as opposed to 100 years later. It's always evolving and going back and forth. Hey, I didn't even realize it. We got Melissa DeCastro backstage. What's up, Melissa?
Hey, Omar. Yeah, I was listening to you guys debating about the Olympics. I
Yeah.
had the same questions about it when I read about it. I think it was yesterday or the day before, not sure.
Yeah. So my opinion of it was this: this doctor doesn't want to know. He doesn't know where to draw the line, or doesn't want to take that stand. Lauren, where would you draw the line?
I'm sorry, but it was kind of breaking up on my phone for a second, so I missed a lot of that.
God damn it!
I got a great connection now. I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. No. So this doctor, he says he doesn't know where he would want to draw the line between male and female. Where would you draw the line?
Between male and female, as in like a sports category, or like
okay, let's just assume. We don't even have to assume. We have male sports, we have female sports. The way that doctors traditionally diagnose whether or not you're male or female is through the X and Y chromosome, which would be my argument for that's a pretty good place to draw the freaking line.
Yeah.
That could determine females and males, and we could accept that there's going to be outliers on both sides.
Yeah.
But with respect to combat sports, we can't ever have a situation where you were born with a Y chromosome. You spent your formative years flooded with male level physiological markers that caused you to have greater athletic prowess than females, and then just decide that when you're 19, 20, 21 years old, that, you know what, F it, I'm a girl and I want to compete with the women in combat sports. That to me is out of bounds. And so what this doctor is declining to do is draw a line in the sand and say that this is 100% male or female, because he's saying it's not that simple because of all the statistical reasons that he said. So if you were to be asked to draw the line, where would you draw it?
I mean, that's pretty hard to say. Especially as I hear more from like doctors, and when I do hear more like civil fact-based conversations about these kinds of things, I will say right now I'm a little more like confused about that than ever. I think. I don't know how to answer the question, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you put it like that, I mean, because this guy basically says, look, XY chromosomes are not the full story. In all my life, I've said that that's pretty much the full story. But what he also says was that the X and Y chromosome determine how you're going to develop, and then there's the outliers. That's basically what he's saying, which is also suggesting that people develop normally as a male and normally as a female, and those outside of it are by nature abnormal. But that's not to suggest that they weren't biological males or females. So what he's saying is, if you really want to have an intelligent civil conversation about the topic, we have to go into all of these markers, and keep in mind that this doctor is dumbing down scientifically this subject matter as much as he possibly can, because he could literally go into all of these thousands of different markers and you know, whatever, this and that. But just in terms of competition, I've always been of the opinion that if you're assigned a gender at birth, that should be absent social constructs. It should be absent any kind of your parents want you to be this or that. It should be absent any political ideologies that anybody's trying to pronounce. It should be based on your biology at birth. You either got a uterus or you don't. You either have female or male genitalia. You either have an X or a Y chromosome. And yes, there's outliers. So what then should be the ultimate marker? If we're going to say that the X and Y chromosome are the ultimate determinators of how you're going to develop physiologically, then it stands to reason that should be the line that we draw. And it's if you happen to have a Y chromosome, but all of these other genetic traits make you appear as a man, well, then that's fair game. You're biologically female. To me, that should be how it goes in combat sports or otherwise. I'm just vehemently against this identity politics issue where it says, hey, who's that famous swimmer? Jenner has been a male for like 60 years of his life.
Wait, who?
Not Kris Jenner. What's his name?
No, the one that was disqualified the last Olympic Games. The one that always identified as a male.
No, not him. We just talked about him. Lauren was actually talking about her or him. But the Jenners, the Jenners, man, the Kardashians. Who's Kardashian's dad?
Yeah, he wasn't
Bruce Jenner. Yeah, Bruce Jenner. Yeah, so Bruce Jenner was like he was a male for like 60 years of life, and then he transitions into a female, and everybody's applauding, and that's great and good for him. And yeah, good for him. But we cannot have like people like that all of a sudden they just want to dress and act and identify as women, but they've been like this Olympic level athlete their entire lives, and then drop them into the female pool of competition in combat sports and say, okay, yeah, it's fair. Come on, man. Mike Tyson wants to identify as a female. We're just going to let him in? Does anybody? Am I the only one that doesn't see a problem with that? That just seems unfair. Lennox Lewis, we're just going to throw him in because he now identifies as a female. Now he's going to be boxing the opposite sex.
I do find it unfair. I have always found it unfair. To be honest with you.
I think a lot of people feel that way quietly. It's just really hard to say without people thinking that you're trying to, well, not even thinking. It's just like people make so many assumptions about you. If you say like, hey, I don't think this is fair, this doesn't seem right to me, then it's like, oh, so you don't support, women who have like masculine builds, you don't support trans women or stuff like that. So it's like, it's really, like I said before, it's just really hard to talk about.
They blow it out of proportion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't give enough about what people want to identify about. I really don't. I don't care about the pronouns. But I will say this. If you're offended because I mispronoun you when we first meet and you're somehow offended, I don't think we could be friends anyway. Enough for me to even care about what you want to be identified about. Like there's got to be some level of grace extended to those that are not familiar with your intimate pronouns. And when we start confusing issues like this, when it's clearly about safety and biology and science, and attributing that to, if I don't see it your way, I'm somehow anti-trans or anti-gay or anti-LGBTQ or anti-anything because you're offended that I won't accept that somebody wants to identify as something, then we can no longer have a civil conversation because you're just talking nonsense at this point. It's not based on science. It's not based on intellect. It's based on your feelings and what you're offended by. And to be quite frank about it, there's very few people in this world that I give a shit about what they're offended by or not.
Right.
It's just how it is for me anyway.
Yeah, it's just like people are so easily triggered. I feel like that like all logic goes out the window. Everybody's lost their freaking minds. Like and not everybody here, you know what I mean? Like like on Twitter when you're reading stuff like that, it's like one extreme or the other, and I'm just like, I cannot live like this. So I obviously just don't talk about this stuff most of the time. Yeah. Like here I can talk about it and be fine because I know that you're like a rational, smart guy, and you're gonna, if you don't agree with me, you're gonna tell me why, and you're not gonna like be like, you're a terrible person, I hate you. You know what I mean?
I'd be the last guy to ever say that about you. I thought I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Jason Swaby says, Omar, let's make it very clear that those high-level athletes in their sport at their assigned gender are not changing genders and competing at a high level. It's just not happening. I'm not sure if he's talking about when I was bringing the Mike Tyson comparisons, but I agree with him. Like the tip-top high-level female athletes at the very top of their sport, whenever they have tried to cross over into males to compete with males, it just never worked out.
Yeah.
That goes from WNBA athletes, goes to track and field athletes. There's a reason why there's two different sets of world records. I think the world record for the 100-meter sprint for males is like 9.912 seconds or something like that. Usain Bolt. I'm not even sure if females have broken 10 seconds yet. I'm not even sure it's physically possible for them to do that. And at the same time, the elite level male athletes, of course, they're not ever going to just start fighting females. Imagine if all of a sudden, like whoever the top MMA person is, Usain Kuzman or whatever his name. Gosh, I can't think of anybody's name. Just all of a sudden declares, I'm going to identify as a female. I'm going to go into the female MMA heavyweight division. It would never happen because it'd be just like you're witnessing a public execution at that point. Yeah. Do you know how big and strong those guys are? Like those guys make regular guys look like females, and now they're going to put them up against an actual female and expect anything to happen. Sean Strickland said that, he was going up against this really famous heavyweight MMA female, and they were wrestling around, and he was scared. Because like, she's literally bigger than me. And he's like telling, he's like, am I going to have to F this lady up? Because he was scared because of her size. But he says, then I'm wrestling with her, and it's like, I'm just wrestling with like a normal person. Like, it was not what I expected at all. Just the differentiation in strength is so pronounced. I'm not sure that most females really understand what it actually is unless they've actually been ingratiated into that level of competition or not. Jody says that I missed so much by fast forwarding Massey video. Jody, I could not play the entire 30-minute Jody Massey clip. She says the windows of the vehicle were smashed. Also, she was on the phone with 911 because she was afraid of those cops. I don't doubt. Well, I know that we skipped over a lot of facts and details, but I also made my opinion very clear that there was, it's inarguable that what that guy did was a gross miscalculation of how much force was required in the moment.
All right, my work computer's back on, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to go and do my job. But yeah, well, thanks for having me.
All right, Lauren, it was a pleasure having you. We're about to go talk about Trump stuff anyway.
All right, cool. All right, bye guys.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
What's up, Melissa? MG Law says that I'm thinking the Italian girl didn't appreciate that difference either until she got hit in the ring and felt the difference. Yeah, MG, I'm with you, but did you know that it just came out in the AP that she was biologically a female? There was an AP article that said that Khelif, that
I was
boxer,
actually reading through it as well. Apparently, she has been always assigned a female. She's from Algeria. Being trans in Algeria is illegal, so there's no way that could have happened. And then at 18, that's when they told her about the XY chromosomes. So she biologically is a woman, female.
When did they tell her? What do you mean they told her about the chromosomes?
I was reading an article on USA Today. I think that was wait, it's right here. I was reading through as you were speaking with.
Has it been confirmed that she has an XY chromosome?
It was done on August 1st, 2024. That was yesterday. And the article said, where is it? It's at the very bottom. They were talking about her. She, on her 18th birthday, that's what they told her, that she had an XY chromosome.
Oh, that's so
every single that throughout her entire, there it is. She was assigned female at birth. It's from USA Today. It's from yesterday. Semenya was assigned female at birth. She said she was told at age 18 that she has XY chromosomes and naturally had high levels of testosterone.
Yeah, and that's why she got disqualified in 2023.
Exactly. She got disqualified. And then why did they let her compete in 2024? That's really weird.
Well, because the IOC, what they're saying is that their criterion was what were you assigned at birth. And if she was assigned female gender at birth, and that's what they're going off of, they were not going off of her testosterone levels, which is why I brought on this doctor to talk about it. Like, just because you got elevated testosterone levels doesn't mean that you're biologically a man, which we discussed already is, yeah, that's true. And so according to my criteria, if you have an XY chromosome, which to me should be the benchmark, then she should have no problems competing with the woman. She's a biological female. She just happens to have male characteristics that are based on her genetics. It's not fair to her if she's born a female, and because she has too many markers that would be indicative of a male, she all of a sudden shouldn't be allowed to compete. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Or isn't it weird that she's a female and she has XY chromosomes? Isn't it XX woman, XY male?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting it backwards. You're right. So she definitely has XY chromosomes?
Exactly. They told her on her 18th birthday that she has XY chromosomes. So I was like, how on earth did she assign a woman at birth?
So so then she's biologically a man.
A man, XY chromosomes. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's an article from USA Today. It was published yesterday.
Well, the AP article from this morning says that she was born a female.
I still don't know how did that make sense.
Well, then they would have had got it wrong, because you don't change your chromosomes mid-life.
You can't. It's impossible. So, I mean, who knows?
Well, if she's biologically male, that's one thing. She shouldn't be allowed to compete in combat sports.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the marker. If it's XX, fine, fair game. If it's XY, you can't. It's a safety thing.
Exactly.
Anyway, we gotta get moving on to segment 3. We're gonna talk about what's going on with Trump versus Harris. You ready for that one, Melissa?
No, but okay.
We're
You
doing
know,
it.
I'm thrilled to talk about politics, but let's see what you say.
All right. All right, folks. So, you know, it was funny. I did my whole video about the pale blue dot, and I try to be all inclusive with people about politics. And I've not announced who I'm going to be voting for because I still legitimately, genuinely have no idea who I'm going to be voting for. I've just been kind of watching the show. Donald Trump, when he's been in the news lately, and he's been saying a lot of things. Kamala Harris hasn't been saying a whole lot. I'll tell you what, there hasn't been much policy arguments on behalf of either of the candidates. But some of the highlights of what Donald Trump has said was he accused Kamala Harris for claiming that she was black for political gain. He had mentioned that, you know, it used to be, I thought that she was Indian, and all of a sudden she's running for office, and now she is, all of a sudden she's black. And she was saying this at the Black Journalism Convention. I want to see if I could pull up some of his statements. And I know that it's not really your forte, and so you don't have to jump in or.
My question is, she really said it?
Said what?
That she's African American, black?
So this is former President Trump, he gave an interview on Wednesday at the National Association of Black Journalists annual convention in Chicago. Throughout the appearance, Trump went on to say his vice president pick does not have any impact because J.D. Vance has been widely blasted for some of the things that he's going on to say. And then they're asking Trump about it. So you're going to pick a different VP? Do you regret your decision? He says, VP doesn't really matter all that much. ABC News senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, Fox News anchor Harris Faulkner, and Semaphore political reporter Katie Agoba interviewed Trump on stage at this event. And the first question came from ABC's Scott, who was asked about Trump's past inflammatory rhetoric toward women of color. And then he goes on to say, I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed, which, come on, man. Why would it not be appropriate for him to be there today? He's literally there to sit there and answer questions, and they're already attacking him like that. She says, you have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congressmen, women of color, who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying, he calls a lot of people losers, saying the questions that they ask are stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resorts. He did. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that? And then he says, he goes full on Trump. He goes, well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. A first question, you don't even say hello. Who are you? You know what? I'm just going to find the clip and play it. He goes on this rant about you guys weren't even ready. You guys were like 35 minutes late, and I've been the greatest thing that's ever happened to black people since Abraham Lincoln. And he goes the full on like Trump stuff. Let's see if I can find that clip. All right, so this is the initial exchange. He's literally just taken the stage. And this is what, let me share my screen before we go any further. This is how it starts.
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
Can I just say, let me just say this, as somebody that did not vote for Trump in 2016, as somebody that did not vote for him in 2020, that's been outraged by things that he said in the past. Like, he said a lot of these things, and it's like things that I already expected him to say anyway. So I'm just so unbothered by this line of retort that he went down. But, you know, in retrospect, he's saying a lot of the stuff. I just don't take him seriously, if I'm being honest. Yeah, he's saying a lot of these things, but he's doing it in this defensive manner. He's been saying it for 8 years, so why am I going to get so outraged about it now? Come on, man. He was chasing Obama around about the birth certificate thing since like 2008.
Since 2007, actually. And I wasn't even living in the United States back then. And I know that because I was in Hawaii when he was doing the presidential race, and I still remember how he bombarded him with the birth certificate thing.
He's been doing this a lot. I'm just so desensitized to it all. I don't really take him serious when he talks like this. I just feel like whenever he gets pressed, he goes into this mode where he starts deflecting and starts attacking, and that's exactly what he does. And he says some stupid things, and people get all smart about it. What was that?
I feel it's a character.
No, I don't think it's a character. I just think it's who he is. He's been doing this since like literally 70s. He's been doing this since 1980. He's always been combative with reporters. And when he's combative with them, it's always almost exactly in this manner.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for Black workers and Black entrepreneurs. I've done so much. And, you know, and I say this, historically Black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke. And I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love
if you
can
can
answer
answer the
question on your rhetoric and why you
I have
believe that
answered
Black
the
voters should
question.
trust you with another.
I'm just going to say that this person doing the interview is not properly equipped to handle Trump. Not that she's doing anything wrong, but this is how he's going to go, and he's going to present these answers, which are really non-answers, and there are these accusatory answers, which he wouldn't be saying. Like, if they came and started singing his praises, then I guarantee he wouldn't be saying these things. But they started off on this offensive posture, and so now he's going into full-on defense mode. And, well, I'll just let it continue.
I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
And for you to start off a question and answer period.
By the way, I don't know who. I don't know the answer to that question. Who was the best president for Black people since Abraham?
Yeah.
Because if you want to say that it was Johnson, I'm not sure that anybody actually really remembers how things were going down back then. I just don't know the answer to that question, but I think that it's hilarious that Trump asserts that he is the one. He is the one that has been the guy.
I told you it's a
Especially when
character.
you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner. I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me.
I hate when he does this stupid shit. Why don't you just define it? What's the definition? What is a DEI? What do you mean? You define it, then she does, and then he carries on with this thing. When he does stuff like that, it's because he doesn't want to answer the question, and he's like stalling for time. I hate when he does that. It's the least
issue.
Yeah.
Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
Define it for me if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She is always identified as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think,
that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I really
Republicans have
don't know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that.
Well, you
interview.
told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion.
All right. So those are the remarks that most people are all up in arms about.
I was actually gonna point something out. Please, people, don't come to me for this. I'm just pointing it out. I do remember when Biden won and Kamala gave a speech because she was accepting vice presidency. I do remember that. I really liked her speech. It was really nice. But she actually identified herself as an Indian, as a woman of Indian heritage because of her mom. Her mom, if I'm not wrong, she's the one who immigrated to the States. If I'm not wrong, that's the case. But she always said she was Indian. She never said she was Black. And then if you actually make some research, from my understanding, a Black person is somebody from African American heritage. That's the thing or not? Or
Could
am
I just make a statement? Could I really just say something? I don't give a shit.
I know you don't, but that's the question they're asking him.
I don't
That's
care.
pretty much what they're asking him.
I don't. Here's my point. I don't care about this line of questioning. I don't care about Trump's response to all of it. I knew that he was going to do this. He did it he did it back in 2016 with Pocahontas and all of that. Why is anybody surprised he would say something like that? And it's not arguable that there are times where Kamala Harris has been confronted with that question, and she, like you said, specifically identified herself as a person of Indian heritage. Yeah, she's done those kinds of things. I just do not care. I don't care.
You don't care, and it's valid that you don't care because who the fuck cares? Like that's not important in this topic. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of people do put a lot of sense into that for some reason. For some reason, I have no idea which one.
Which one? What?
I have no idea why they put so much thought in this. You get what I'm saying?
I know why Trump does it.
Or anything.
Trump does it because it derails the conversation, and then they lose all of the finer talking points that they really wanted to get to, which was explain yourself about like some of these other things he said. And they say, "What are you guys asking me for?" She's the one that's pretending to be Black for political gain, and then everybody like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he would say something like that." And the answer is obvious because look at how everybody's reacting.
It's a character.
Well, Trump is very skilled when it comes to these kinds of situations. He's stuck his foot in his mouth hundreds, if not thousands of times since he's been in the political arena, which would have been since like 2012, 2008. He's been trying to get himself involved in politics, really going back all the way to the 80s, just talking about he wanted to run for president. And he is very skilled at when he doesn't want to answer a question, he flusters the debate questioner, and he starts bringing up all of this other stuff, and he just never actually answers the question. Sort of like when I had Megan Fox on. And by the way, Megan Fox was going to be here, but she's feeling deathly ill. She could not make it, and so she's not going to be joining us for this one. But similar to when they were asking Donald Trump about what was that? It just made me lose my train of thought. oh, they're asking him to denounce white nationalism. And then Megan Fox was like, that was just the media sensationalism, and they were trying to get you to believe that Donald Trump was a racist. And I was trying to tell Megan that that wasn't based off of what the media was saying. Like, he was literally on the debate stage, and those are the words that came out of his mouth. And they gave him this opportunity to denounce white nationalism. And he's like, who do you want me to denounce? Do you want me to denounce the Proud Boys? What do you want me to call them? Sure, denounce them all. And then he gives like this half-assed answer. And my speculation at the time, back in 2020, was he didn't want to do it specifically because he didn't want to lose what he had identified as a large chunk of his voters. And so he gave this androgynous answer to be interpreted many different ways, so that when the media tried to call him out on it, they could be accused of being sensationalist journalist fake news. And for those that were wanting to support him and not denouncing white nationalism, say, see, he was sending off dog signals, and then he didn't really say anything. He knows what's going. He knows what's up. He had to say what he said, but he didn't say it all the way. And so it was this very middle of the road way of not losing voters while not being able to be accused of doing certain things. There's no question that he said things that have been racially insensitive to some people. He's done it. He's always done it, and he's doing it now. I was just so not impressed with it this time. I just didn't care. I already knew he was going to take this route. I will say this, that I'm proud of him for not going the other way, which is where a lot of other Republicans are going, which is saying that Kamala Harris slept her way to the vice presidency, and she's like,
thank God that he did not go that route. That would have been so bad.
It would be political disaster for him to do that. He would drop so fast in the poll. Others are doing it, but he's not going down that route, and you got to give him some kind of credit for that at the very least. But at the same time, I look at Kamala Harris. As you well know, I am a political free agent. I don't have no idea who I'm voting for. I'm trying to give both candidates equal weight. I'm legitimately interested in both what they have to say in terms of policy. I'm really, honestly riveted. I want to know where they're going to go. I want to know what they have to do. I want to see them debate. But okay, Kamala Harris gave like a rally the other day, and I just want to put on the screen for you this, and I want you to react in full time. I just want to get your raw reaction to it, because I had a reaction to it. All right, so this is at a Kamala Harris for president rally that happened a couple of days ago.
Omar, clarify some information for me as you're looking for the video.
Yeah.
Okay, Kamala is at this point, she's not the official representative of the Democratic Party, right? She's running for it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're good.
But she's going there. She's the presumptive nominee.
No, of course. We all know that. But as of now, she's not. Whether Trump is the official nominee for the Republican Party.
Yeah. So this has been, Trump has been out there, and he's been out there speaking every day. He's been giving these talks. There's lots of things that I have questions about. Number one, the guy's 78 years old. Number two, the guy from like 4 years ago, he's literally like starting to slur his speech. He's starting to show his signs of aging. It's happening.
I think he's been the oldest president in office, like elected to office, Trump.
No, that would be Biden right now.
No. Wait, keep looking for that. Let me take it.
All right, just let me play this for you real quick. Are you watching?
See.
All right. Tell me what you think of this.
Oh my God, it's that one? Oh.
It never happened if the one happened. I'm a hot girl. I'm too hot. Till the skin come on my outfit. Don't say quit, cause I ain't thirsty. These dudes mad. They wanna hurt me. I'm a hot girl. Legs on his head, I love high with me. You'll never catch me calling these men daddy. I ain't lying, mama.
That's the video? It was Megan? I saw that video on Megan's Instagram.
That is
That's
a
Megan
Kamala
Thee
Harris.
Stallion, the one that sings rap.
That is a Kamala Harris political rally.
Omar, that's a strategy. A complete strategy.
What's the strategy? Tell me. Explain it to me like a
okay, you know who that woman is, the one who's singing?
Yeah, I know it's Megan Thee Stallion. I know who she is now. But what is the strategy? Tell me.
Okay, so Megan Thee Stallion is a very, very popular singer at the moment. At the moment, she's the one who sings WAP. So most likely, putting that out there in a rally is going to catch attention of a lot of people that are into her music. That's the whole strategy.
What percentage of people do you think that are voting in this election are into that kind of music?
Omar, I have no idea because this is a very, very big country, a very huge one. So, believe me, a lot of people are going to be interested in that.
Let me just say this. I'm not going to take you seriously if you got people twerking on the stage at your political rallies.
Okay. I'm just pointing something out.
Okay. Explain to me the merits of having people twerk on your political rally stage.
It just brings attention. You get what I'm saying? If somebody sees that they're going to be Megan Thee Stallion's on TV, she's going to bring a lot of viewers and a lot of people are just going to see it because she was on stage. That's it. It's like when you bring an artist to the Super Bowl. People just watch the stupid Super Bowl to see that artist who are not even into football, okay? You get what I'm saying?
No.
Dios mío. I don't know how to put it in other words.
You can't make that be okay to me. Come on, man.
I'm saying it's okay. Wait, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's a strategy. That's it. I'm not saying it's fine.
The strategy is to get eyeballs on the stage.
That's it. That's all she wanted to. That's it. That's all she wanted to do.
This isn't an effing concert, man. This is like a.
And then people who take politics seriously, like you do, think that way, which is appropriate. But people who don't know an F about it and just say, Megan Thee Stallion is singing, and boom, a lot of people are just going to watch it. Really, that's it. That's my point of view.
I don't know what to tell
There
you.
you have it, boss. He's going to kill me. If I would have said this in front of him at the office, his looks would really discourage me. Be like, I don't know what to think about you, Melissa.
Let me just explain from my perspective.
Okay.
Donald Trump is a highly beatable Republican presidential candidate.
You said highly beatable.
Yeah. Any competent Democratic candidate could run a successful campaign against Donald Trump because he's not really coherent on his policies, because he's 78 years old, because he's literally showing signs of aging the same way that Biden was back when he was running back in 2020. I think the same age at this point. He's 78 years old. He's slurring his speech. He can't keep the string of conversation straight in his head. He's saying stupid things like this at the Black Journalism Convention, which under normal circumstances would have scored a lot of points because somebody would be able to capitalize on that. And then Kamala Harris is having people twerk on her stage. He says, oh, it's a strategy to get eyeballs. Come on, man.
I swear to God, that's all I think she's doing.
It doesn't matter. I grew up in a time where people had real discussions about the policy issues that were being debated between presidents. They would debate and have these intelligent, above board conversations with each other about the direction of the country. And now we got Trump, who is saying, oh, she's not even black, she's Indian and all this stuff. And hey, you guys are 35 minutes late and this and that. And I'm going to deport everybody and all these kinds of things. The same stuff he's been saying for like the last 8 years. And then you got
everybody.
Kamala Harris. She hasn't said anything. I think that her strategy at this point is the same as Biden's was, which is basically let Trump just talk himself into a grave and just capitalize. Keep Biden out of the spotlight as much as possible. And then, we're going to do that. Because I feel like Kamala Harris is like the worst possible candidate the Democrats could have put up there to go up against Trump, because she's so unlikable, because she's not a good debater. She's not a good public speaker. She's extremely off-putting, and she's literally having people twerk up on her stage. We haven't even had a female be elected to office, let alone, people twerking up on the stage where we're supposed to take her seriously as a presidential candidate. And you have the opportunity to capitalize on this guy, Trump. I'm asking for Kamala to give me any reason whatsoever to vote for her over Trump. And
We haven't had a female candidate have a rally where people are twerking on stage, but we've had a president elected into office who did similar things. If I could just say it that way. I'm not gonna. No, I can't say that word here.
No, say it. It's an adult show. Say it. What do you mean? Are you talking about grabbing people by the privates? Are you talking about sleeping with porn stars? Are you talking about sexual assaults? Are you talking about sexual innuendos? Are you talking about womanizing? Look, there's a rich 200-year history of that. I don't think that we have to pretend like that's never happened. And so, which is why I'm not pulling any points from Kamala when people say that, oh, she used her sexual prowess to try to get to the top, which Trump is not saying, but the RNC is saying that. I'm not taking any points. I just want to, look, I don't give a shit about what you did. If I don't care what he did, I'm not going to care what you did. That's fair, right? He's behaved in a way, you behaved in a way. What do you got to do for me now? What are you going to do for me now? And Trump is over here at his rallies. I'm trying to listen to what he's saying. And it's funny because he'll start to try to talk about policy and people get bored. And then he starts to feel people get bored and like, my first day in office, I'm going to deport everybody. I'm not going to fund any schools that have any face mask mandates or whatever. And then the crowd goes wild. And it's like, okay, that whole thing again. And it's just such an incoherent discussion that is being had. It's really sad to know that this is how it's going down in 2024 when I could remember candidates, where it wasn't this way. Like back in 2004, Bush, Kerry, whatever you thought about either of them, they were formidable candidates that were spouting off legitimate policy arguments. And then we were arguing the merits of their policy proposals versus, this adolescent vitriol that's being spouted back and forth between both sides. It's really disheartening. The presidential election of 2008, when you had Barack Obama and John McCain. I loved both of those candidates. And you know what's more? I really like feeling that the president of the United States is way smarter than me, like with half of his brain. I always got that impression with Obama. That I can't
everybody.
I can't outspeak that guy.
From the representative.
I can't out-intellect that guy. He's got it, man. I trust that guy to be the head statesman for the United States. I would have said the same thing about John McCain. I would have said the same thing about Mitt Romney when he was running against Obama in 2012. I thought that Romney, although I didn't agree with his policy concerns, the reasons why I didn't want to vote for him was merit-based, as opposed to I can't stomach voting for that guy, so I'm going to vote for the other. In 2016, at the very least, I knew that although I didn't vote for her, I knew that what was her name? Hillary. I know that
Clinton
was like genius level smart. I felt that she was way smarter than I. The first time I legitimately didn't feel that way was when Trump took office in 2016. And when Biden took office in 2020. And now I'm looking for either of these candidates to give me something in 24, and I got nothing. I'm just like, what do you want, man? What do you want me to say about that? What do you want me to say to that? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's literally, did you see the thing where Kamala Harris did that TikTok about when Trump was like, oh, Kamala Harris and us are going to be all about, I'm the convicted felon and she's the prosecutor. And then she clipped it and she's like, I'm Kamala Harris and I approve of that message. It's like, that's what we're resorting to. It's 2024. That's where we're going down. I don't know if you remember some of the presidential debates that we had back in the 80s with Reagan and Mondale, and just the charisma was off the charts. Even back in 92, we had Senior Bush, we had Clinton, we had Ross Perot. Ross Perot was like this funny little guy with the big ears. It was this,
I remember Omar. Not even my family was here back then, unfortunately. I wish
I know, but I remember because I was 12, and he had all these charts and all those things he was saying, and we were having these educational discussions like you would have them in schools. I'm not sure if you could play that shit in middle schools and expect anything to happen. What are we supposed to take to that? I haven't heard anybody be able to articulate with any degree of certainty. Jesus, I've been going for 2.5 hours already.
2 hours and 15 minutes, not and a half.
Almost. I haven't heard anybody be able to articulate the political policy arguments of either candidate thus far. And we're in August.
Omar, it's not even only in the United States, it's happening worldwide with elections in other countries as well. Like at this point in the world, we're not getting a presidential debate or a presidential candidate. Like you said, I feel that this person is bajillion years smarter than me, and I trust him to manage my country. You get what I'm saying?
No. I'm just
You
kidding.
just said it.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding with you.
I'm trying to be nice.
Oh, if you're in the office, I tell you something.
I know.
I tell you to go consult the door because it feels like.
I think we're hyper focusing on it because that is the current topic of.
Oh yeah, Chief Shenanigan says, I think we're hyper focusing on it because that is the current topic convo here. I didn't even see or hear about this performance, and for the most part, don't care personally. I don't know if she's talking about the twerking thing or the
twerking thing. Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I know that Kamala's actually got up there and spoke on
No,
things.
yeah, she did. She did.
I was just so disheartened. I was excited. I was starting to feel like this excitement that, hey, maybe we might have like a legitimate presidential candidate. And then I got freaking Megan Thee Stallion. Look, whatever you think about Megan Thee Stallion, man, I don't care. Whatever your opinions about twerking, could I not see that on the stage of a presidential candidate, man? I can't take you serious. You already know what they're saying about you. You already know what they're saying about you.
So many people are gonna.
I'm not the one. You know what? Hold on. I gotta do this, man. I wasn't gonna do this, but I gotta do this now.
This just reminded me of the time you told me I was free to put whatever music I wanted to in the office, and then I took my small speaker and then I put it down your door, and then it played WAP, and you were like, Melissa, get the F out. Stop it.
Could I just explain? Okay, look, I don't know if you know who Judge Joe Brown is.
No.
But he's saying all of the things that the Republican candidates want to say, that the Republican Party wants to say about Kamala. This is the narrative on the underbelly of the political discussion. This is what's being said about Kamala. Let me share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. This is what's being said about Kamala.
Look, if you, I always heard this rumor that she slept her way to the top. That's true.
She did. She's old. She's 60 years old. Look, if you want to find out about it, go online to the LA Times morgue. They used to have it so for a fee, you could get them to pull articles. They've been reporting on her for 30-some years. She's in her 20s, and Willie Brown took her up as his mistress. There was a medical firm that dealt with San Francisco. He got her a 15-hour-a-week part-time job there, which she never showed up to, according to the Times, but they paid her $72,000 a year for 15 hours a week. And understand, she's in her 20s, which is 30-some years ago. That's big money now. So he got her promoted up, so she did 20 hours a week. Times reported she never showed up, but she got 120 grand a year. So he bought her a 750i BMW, which was the top of the line at the time. So he set her up with all of the connections to get her into politics. The Times did a thing about this thing she had allegedly with an NBA player to get a job with a big law firm, and then a thing they did on her with the assistant director for the district attorney's office to get on with them, and then Montel Williams, and then back to Willie Brown, and then the rest of the whole thing, and she winds up with a Hollywood lawyer type not long before she runs for senator. So, and she adopts his children. She doesn't have any of her own, not saying it's a requirement, but it sure as hell helps, because I think the only two presidents of significance that didn't have children officially, George Washington and Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Jackson was a homicidal maniac. George Washington had enough by the slaves before he got sterile by disease, and the other three out of the five known ones, they weren't too good. They were has-been, never was type. So I say that I know what I thought when I was a young man. Such things didn't make differences, but then I'd never had to be a parent. You never had to get up sick and go to work when you didn't feel like it.
All right, Judge Brown is he's going to go on and on like that, but basically he's saying that she slept her way into her position and she was a bad lawyer. And he goes on to say that she wasn't very good in the courtroom, and the only reason she has any position of influence was because of the way that she used her sexuality to get into it. To which I say, I don't give a shit about any of that. I really don't. If she had the wherewithal to get where she's at, however she got there, I'm not going to be the one to judge, and I don't give a shit. I don't care. I just want to know the meritorious arguments of both. That's all I want to know. All I'm saying is that's the narrative that's going to be out there against Harris, and she's got people twerking on the stage. The one thing that I did think was maybe she's like doubling down on it. Maybe it's just, the perception, the outward perception of it is just to feed into that narrative so that Republicans will dive deeper into that narrative, which will be so off-putting to the rest of the country that will swing her votes that way. Maybe it was a strategy, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It was just disheartening to see that on that end. Kamala has been on the trail. She's been saying certain things, but she said a whole lot of nothing. But to be fair, neither has Trump. I haven't really heard anything meritorious come out of either party's mouth. And I was really disappointed to learn that Donald Trump was not wanting to debate Kamala Harris. Why would he not want to debate Kamala Harris? Because I feel like I've watched Donald Trump take down the entire RNC. Back in 2014, one by one, he was picking off Republican candidates one by one. Who was their best? Chris Christie, Paul Ryan, all of those effing guys. He went up against them on a fully 8 to 10 person debate stage and just picked them off all one by one. He went up against Hillary Clinton, who's a million times smarter than Kamala Harris. And he might not have won the debate in terms of its scholarship, but he got in the most memorable quotes. And if you think back to those 2016 debates, the most memorable statements that came out of those debates were stuff that Trump said, because he's got, say what you will about him, man, but he's got charisma. He's got a style. And it works. And he knows how to go in for the jugular. And he's got no shame. And so you can't really say anything bad about him. It's going to roll right off. They've been talking shit about Donald Trump for 50 years, man. You think it's going to matter to him now? And now you got Kamala Harris in there. And she feels like the most beatable of the Democratic candidates. Why would Donald Trump be afraid to debate her? Why are they saying all of this stuff about how it's so wildly unfair that Biden dropped out at this late stage? This is a travesty. The Democrats are trying to steal the election. Bullshit, man. Go in there and beat her on her merits. Go in there and beat her. I feel like Donald Trump is better equipped to beat Kamala Harris on a debate stage than most. He just needs to go effing do it, man. And the fact that he's unwilling to do it, or thus far has been made statements to the fact that he's unwilling to debate her because of whatever his stupid reasons are, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it causes me, look, like I said, I'm a political free agent. I got to make a decision about who I'm going to vote for, man. Donald Trump could win my votes by going in and beating Kamala on her merits. And I feel like he's capable of doing it, but maybe he's not because he's getting a little bit older. I feel like 2016 Donald Trump would have eaten Kamala Harris's lunch and served it up to her on a silver platter like a little baby bird with twerkers on the RNC stage and making fun of her and the whole thing. And the fact that he's not taking and capitalizing on all of that is befuddling to me.
Omar, let the twerking go.
No, I will not. What do you mean let the twerking go? That's what I have. I cannot look, I'm obviously going to let it go. I'm just saying.
Debate her once she's the actual nominee. He did say that. I do remember that.
I don't think that there's a world that exists where he's not going to debate her. I'm just puzzled by the statement where he was leading off where, debate her for what? What am I going to debate her for? Because just this, reasons and all of that. What does Ren say?
I think Trump is losing his edge. Age doesn't come alone. That is true.
All I know is 4 years ago, Donald Trump was going after Biden for his age. He was talking about Biden was slurring his words. He was talking about you had to be on pins and needles because he didn't know when he was going to F up something in the speech. But if you watch him very closely in his speeches now, at his campaign rallies, Trump is slurring his speech. He's losing track of his thoughts. He's mispronouncing words. He's misnaming people. he's relying more and more on platitudes that appeal to his base because he loses his train of thought. I think he's losing his edge. I think Ren is right. Absolutely right. And hey, nothing against Trump, man, but he's 78 years old. We just had a 78-year-old in office, and we see what the end result of that is in 4 years. Now, couple that with Trump, who is very famously and historically been a habitual repeater and a connoisseur of various, illegal narcotics and the effects that might have long-term on the brain. I'm not so sure that Trump has the mental fortitude anymore that he had back in 2016 to be in a position of power such that they wouldn't take advantage of him the same way that they've been taking advantage of Biden for a couple of years now. Do I want to go back to that? No. But do I want to go to a 59-year-old Kamala Harris, who is not really giving me any reason to vote for her so far in the week or so that it's been since she's been the presumptive nominee? No, man. It's the first time that I can remember in my life where I haven't been arguing fervently over one character or one political candidate over the other. It is a sad state of American politics. I know you're going to say, oh, what about what's going on in Italy and all and overseas and all this? Yeah, but look, this is home. And I've never been in a situation where people say, oh, we got to choose the lesser of two evils. I just need to know that one of the candidates is going to be competent enough to do the job. And I'm just terrified. I'm terrified of a 78-year-old Trump going into office with the RNC relying on his rhetoric to get in the office and who's actually going to be pulling the strings. And I'm terrified of Kamala Harris and her general aptitude to do the job when she has very historically not been a very good lawyer, not been a very good policymaker, not been a very good political speaker or public speaker for that matter, who oftentimes bloviates because she's at a loss for words. I'm just so depressed right now at this juncture. I'm literally looking for any reason to get excited about this upcoming election, and it's not. There's
nothing to be excited about. Nothing.
Yeah. Redondo Beach is in the house. Says, why did the officer not contain? Oh, we're going back to the officer.
Usually, when you're talking with somebody, even if they have called you for help, you contain them if you don't let walk. What is this?
He's talking about the Massey case, the Sonya Massey at the top end of the podcast. I agree. I had made that point, Redondo. Julio, thank you so much for the 5. You were ignoring RFK. Julio, I got to tell you, man, I was so excited about RFK Jr. I was so excited about that guy. Going back to 2019, 2020, they just obliterated that guy from the Democratic Party. Isn't he an independent now? If RFK Jr. was running for office, I would be so excited because that guy's got actual policy ideas. He has the ability to speak. He's got charisma. He's got all of these things going for him, but he couldn't even get security clearance from Biden when he was doing his political rallies. He had to deregister as a Democrat. And now he's an independent now, I think. You know who else I would have been excited about? Tulsi Gabbard, before she was, when she was part of the Democratic Party. Since then, she has switched teams and she's gone all out the other way. But she was just not somebody that was willing to play these political games. And as a result, she has been ostracized from DC because of her inability to play or unwillingness to play the games that they're playing and to fall in line with all these folks. And so therefore, she's not going to be a serious player. So who do we have? This is who you have. You've got Donald Trump, who can be controlled because he's old.
He is running independent.
Yeah, Julio's Yeah, he's running independent, which means he's not going to win.
He's not going to exactly.
He's going to get something like 5% of the national popular vote or something, maybe
That's
less.
how it baffles me how the two-party system in the USA works.
It's not technically a two-party system.
Yes, it is.
But
it is.
It's an unofficially two-party system. It's a two-party system in that you're not winning if you're not Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, exactly.
But technically, you could run as whatever you want. I know, Melissa. I know.
Eso no es lo mismo. That and nothing is the same shit. Same shit.
HL says, I'm really afraid of Kamala, not Trump at all. He really cares for America. It's not a matter of whether or not he cares for America. I have no doubt that he cares for America.
Yes,
It's whether-
exactly.
It's a matter of if he gets in office, who's really pulling the strings. I could say the same thing about Biden right now. I could say the same thing about Kamala. I think the danger with Kamala is she would probably push back more on the strings being pushed and actually make some policy decisions that are incoherent. But I don't know. I can't speculate on that kind of stuff. But it's true.
Trump, if you put me in office, you won't have to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Project 2025 will be in effect.
You hear when he said that,
My God, everybody's talking about that, but I don't know what it is. Could you explain it over to me?
it was basically, he says something like, if you're a Christian, you won't have to vote anymore. How about that? We'll just put it all on red, and then, that'll be it. There'll be no need for you to go to the polls and vote. He said something to that effect. And he did say that. I don't know if that's what he meant to say, but that's what he said. Let's see if I can pull up the clip where he said that.
He also said some really nasty things about the president of El Salvador.
Yeah, he says lots of nasty things about everybody. This is what he said. He said, hey, with these
the only topic I've seen he hasn't touched as of now is what's going on in Venezuela. But he has been touching every single topic.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't give a shit about what's going on in Venezuela. Not that I don't care. It's just that that's not in the top 100 topics of what I have questions about for the upcoming election.
They van a funar. People are going to hate you. Look, keep going. I want to see the clip.
You know what? I'm just going to pull it up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Trump on Christians not voting. This is what he said. Okay. Trump says stupid shit like this all the time, man. It's hard to take him serious when he's talking like this.
He says stupid shit all day, every day.
Most important election ever. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. We have to.
Okay, yeah, he shouldn't have said that. That looks really bad.
We'll have it fixed so good you won't have to vote, and we don't even worry
That
about
looks
it.
really bad. No. I imagine his PR team like, no.
Oh, there's the
Project 2025 pushed by the Federalist Societies trying to make the Bible law and throw out the Constitution. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't be so cavalier about that because there's a lot of things going on.
Certainly hardcore Christians don't vote. That's why he said you only have to vote this one time. He said it after my next 4 years, the country will be in great shape. No need to vote again if you don't want.
Well, that's not how everybody's
That's not how
taking
he
it.
said it. I'm sure he meant it.
So
but
here's
that's not what he said.
here's what happens. Here's what I've noticed about Trump. It's got to be so difficult to be a Trump supporter because he says stupid shit like that all the time. And then it's like, okay, what about when he said that? I was like, yeah, it's not what he really meant. This is what he actually meant. Yeah, but he didn't say any of those things. Like Megan Fox did the same thing to me a couple of weeks ago. She's like, yeah, but I know what he said, but he didn't mean this and this media sensationalism. It's like, but he did say it.
That's why you can't support anybody. Everybody says stupid shit.
Yeah. And so, look, I'm not disqualifying him for saying stupid shit. I'm just saying that you don't have to. Look, he is what he is. I know what he is. He's a shit talker. He's been a shit talker for a long time, his entire life. He's been the one guy that goes in there and talks about, oh, I went to like this secret fighting society and I won the Kumite, but I can't tell you about it because it's super top secret. And if I told you where it actually was, I'd have to actually kill you then. And, and then he says, oh, I have I'm the best this, I'm the best that. He's a shit talker. He's always been a shit talker. I'm not going to take away points from him for being a shit talker. He's already been elected as president once on those grounds. I'm just saying it worked a lot better in 2016. And at 78 years old in 2024, it's not coming across the same way. But to be fair, Kamala Harris is a frightening presidential candidate. WTF. I'm not going to get off the twerking thing, man. Anybody with that kind of political incompetence.
Let it go. Let it go.
No. Could I just say this? If you were that politically incompetent to have that go on at your political rally, what does it say about you as a candidate who's trying to run the country?
I'm going to play WAP the entire next week at the office.
My God. All right, folks. I think it's time for some family law after dark. Hey, Dominic, do we got the link up for Flad? No, we don't. Hey, folks, go on our channel. And actually, while I have you guys here, I'm going to set this up. Obviously, editing moment, Dominic. But I am going to go in and create the link for Family Law After Dark. Melissa is going to be joining me.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about some stuff. All right. We're going to start it in about 5 minutes. What time is it? It's 12:49.
It's 12:49.
Yeah, let's start it at 1, I guess. God, it's already that late.
Send me the link. I'll go in there.
Yeah, I will send you the link.
Okay.
Before I do that, let me just make sure. No, it wasn't that one. Let's try. There it is. Okay. So I have the link up right now. Folks, it's been a wonderful show. I'm going to be wrapping up this episode. If you guys are so inclined, come join us for some Family Law After Dark. We're going to talk about some crazy cases, salacious and otherwise.
It's one of the best sections of the entire show.
Yeah, it's what we're starting to become more and more famous for. But folks, I love you all, and just remember, if you're supporting Trump, if you're supporting Harris, if you're supporting RFK Jr., whoever it is, if you want to vote for yourself, it's all love in this channel. I'm not going to ostracize you. I'm not going to criticize. I'm not going to judge. Everybody's welcome in this channel on this platform to talk about whatever your opinions might be. And we're going to keep it that way. But for all of you, the rest of you folks, I hope to see you guys in Family Law After Dark in about 5 minutes. We'll see you then. All right. Bye-bye.